Our story is not so much about journalism, but about analysis. And most of participants are political scientists, sociologists, social scientists, anthropologists. So it's more of a think tank initiative. I will try to tell you a bit more about this system. At that time, this was spring of 2014, the Russian government already monopolized the TV, and there was a blow dealt on the internet media, the general registry of the websites, as well as Lugovoy law were already adopted, which provide for extrajudicial blocking of websites. And of course, virtually anything can be classified under the title of extremist material. Also, according to Lugovoy law, it became possible to block websites rallying or appealing to the public for the sake of protest. And so the Kremlin has generally been quite effective in shielding most Russians from this sensitive information. There was another problem, which is not so much on the surface, but both the international community became somewhat shielded or isolated from the protest voices because all of the Kremlin-affiliated media, Sputnik, Russia Today, and others were only channeling information in a distorted way. Our problem that we already literally bumped into at that time, writing analytical texts, that the rating publications were not particularly interested in the work with young authors, young experts. In other words, a young expert has hard time to publish his or her text because most the publications prefer publishing texts from renowned authors whose name could give them more readership. At that time, we understood that even when texts are published, they are often distorted with some polishing, and not much has stayed from the original analysis. So we have decided to create a forum where young experts could generally be in a position to publish without censorship and self-censorship in two languages simultaneously. So our project is a two-language initiative. It's English and Russian. And we also work with the international expertise and experts, and by translating their materials into Russian, we allow them for readership, Russian readership, channel these materials to the Russian audience. We have also been pursuing the goal of working with the regional authors, so social scientists, and there are not many publications which deal with these regional authors. It is often very difficult for regional authors to submit materials to mainstream Western publications, and often they simply cannot expect to be published, and the Western press usually don't assume such risks to publish the no-names. So we decided to become some sort of a bridge between the Western and Russian expert community, and to really produce good analysis for the benefit of our readers. One of the first things here was to support the young experts in Russia, both Russian and foreign expert community, and creation of this networking community. And of course, the comprehensive analysis of social, political, and other aspects developing in Russia. Originally, we thought to have this launched from Russia, but we understood that we cannot support this and from Russia, and we don't want to become and enter the ambit of the law on foreign agents. And so the only alternative for us was to start the project not from Russia, so we could shield ourselves from pressure, from the necessity and the need for censorship or self-censorship. And at the time when we conceptualized what we were aspiring for, we started to search investors. We were able to find some like-minded persons from on behalf of the Russian Polish space of dialogue, who were indeed highly interested in our idea, but offered to expand this framework. And the center allocated us financing with on condition that we would also be publishing well-known Russian and Western experts, which indeed increases our readership. And Anton will tell us more about the project proper. Well, indeed, this is indeed a think tank online. We are publishing articles written specifically for our project. We have tried to convene quite many materials and publish those related to different topics with wide range, like the Russian diplomacy in the Middle East, or the status and the condition of women in the Russian prisons as inmates. So we have we are trying to have materials which are of interest not just to the scholarly and academic community, but also to those who are interested in down-to-earth analysis. So this has to be written and either in English or in Russian, and we conduct the translations. And we're trying to make this available, and when we translate the texts into Russian, we try to adapt these texts. Just a little bit of statistics. Over the 2 years, we have been generally able to convene an interesting community of authors, about 130 persons, about 1/3 of these are at early stages of their professional career, either graduate students, masters or bachelors, those who are just trying to claim their place in this expert community and are just trying to present interesting analysis, which is certainly of interest to us as young persons. And secondly, our expert community includes those people who are seeking new voices, new ideas, and we like the idea that we are the forum which opens information space for these people. This statistics is about of 6 months. The share of the Russian authors has probably gone up a little bit by now, but we can generally combine happily the Russian themes with with the English audience, who, especially after the events of 2014, have interest towards Russia. Unfortunately, there are a lot of phobias, stereotypes, and fear, which is often translated into outright wrong reports, and often it may be quite advantageous to use this Russian voice of the expert community to disambiguate many cases. We have recently tried to make a median portrait of our readers, and often the product which we see at the out case, we can see mostly people who are following our politics, and they are generally civic scholars, the trolls, and indeed nobody deals without trolls or trolling. Here we tried to show the scale of this project, and it is difficult to compete with major publications, of course, which have had decades of history, and they have staff. We only publish about 3 to 5 articles per week, but some are the readership for the Russian version is 3.4 thousand unique visits, and in English it's about the same number. So the content that is of interest is quite diverse, and you can judge by the names. As you can see, some of the English publications, English language publications in original may go up 100,000 visits, but if you combine, then the overall number is quite high. In addition, we are not counting the reprinting. We have a partner relationship with the Независимая газета, and some things are published on Эхо Москвы. And as to the English language version, we have been able to install interesting relations with many English language publications, and in addition to the Polish-Russian dialogue, we also have other partners, the Russia blog, authored by Maxim Trudolubov, and we borrow articles from each other, translate them into Russian, and so we're trying to expand the audience for our projects. How do we structure our work? We would like to have a somewhat strong ethical principles. The articles are read in the first stage by either myself or Olga, and we have an international team: Poles, Germans, Russians, one American, one Brit. So it's an international team, and so we have 2 persons from the editorial staff to have read the article. The author is then, after the review, the author is communicated the possible questions, comments, or claims, and then the article is translated And the article is published in 2 languages on the website, and the author gets an honorary, not a particularly big honorary, but an honorary, and we believe that this is important. We say that it is important to have a remuneration for the work, and clearly it is of importance to some Russian authors coming from the Russian regions or provinces where the level of subsistence is quite low. The number of copies is limited, but the publication is available online in the open access. 3 years after the annexation of Crimea have now passed, and we believed that such a tectonic event can now be evaluated in the overall international scene, and we can try to understand how Crimea has changed or continues to change Russia. We have invited about 16 of our colleagues, the authors, who have picked up the different aspects of the Russian foreign and domestic policies, and a book has been published, unfortunately only in English, and we hope to translate it at some point. Now it is only available in English, and we hope that you can that you get familiarized with it or have the time to go through it. We have tried to combine some pure academic expertise and some conventional or down-to-earth analysis, which relate some sophisticated subjects in lay language. We are seeking new authors. We are seeking new authors. We love young authors, and because there are at least 2 younger authors who have participated with them. Alisa Zakharov is among you. I'm sure, I'm sure that our future authors are in this hall, so we invite you for cooperation. We offer you to come close to us, and we hope and we trust that you and your colleagues will participate in this work and hopefully talk not only to the Russian readership but also to the English readership through our publication.